Morning television is supposed to be soft, safe, and sunny, a place for laughter, easy questions, and polite applause. But what happened that day on This Morning was none of those things. The segment began like any other: bright lights, cheery music, and the familiar warmth of Allison Hammond's laugh filling the studio. The air smelled faintly of coffee and fresh flowers from the centerpiece on the coffee table. Dermot O'Leary sat beside her. Cards neatly stacked, smile practiced to perfection. "Good morning, everyone," Allison beamed, voice booming with energy. "Today we have a very special guest, actress, activist, and former Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle." The audience clapped politely as Meghan entered. She moved with calculated grace, hair in loose waves, posture perfect, her expression composed but unreadable. She extended a hand instead of accepting Allison's hug. The exchange lasted seconds, but the tension hung in the air like static. "Welcome to This Morning, Meghan," Dermot said warmly, motioning toward the sofa. "Thank you," Meghan replied. "It's always interesting to be here." Allison chuckled, brushing off the coolness. "We're thrilled to have you. You've been busy. New projects, appearances, lots of headlines. Tell us what's going on." Meghan's smile tightened. "What's going on is purpose, focus, using my voice to elevate the conversation beyond gossip. That's what matters." Her tone was deliberate, pointed. Dermot nodded, quick to smooth over the edge. "And your upcoming project, can you share more with our viewers?" "It's about truth," Meghan said, "giving people the chance to tell their stories, without being edited into caricatures, something I know quite a bit about." A few audience members chuckled awkwardly. Allison picked up on the tension and pressed forward. "That's wonderful. But of course people are curious. Life away from the UK, balancing family and work. Are you happy?" Meghan's lips curved, but her eyes didn't follow. "Happiness isn't a gift, Allison. It's a decision, and I've made mine." Polite applause followed, though the atmosphere had cooled. Allison nodded, still smiling. "And Prince Harry, you've both been working on separate projects. How's that partnership balancing out?" Meghan's eyes flicked toward her, her tone sharpening. "You don't ask working men how they balance things with their wives, Allison. We both have schedules. We manage." Allison laughed nervously. "Fair enough. But people adore you both and wonder how you juggle it all, especially with the kids." "We juggle privately," Meghan replied firmly. "My children aren't morning show material," the audience murmured. Dermot stepped in quickly. "Let's pivot to your creative work. There have been reports about your Netflix series. Some say you asked for more money this season. What's your response?" Meghan gave a low, polished laugh. "When a man demands fair value, he's a visionary. When a woman does, she's greedy. I don't chase pennies, Dermot. I command worth." Scattered applause. Allison raised her brows. "Strong answer. And of course, people can't forget your comments on the monarchy. You've called it outdated in the past. Do you still feel that way?" "Tradition doesn't equal righteousness," Meghan said coolly. "Centuries of history don't erase harm. I don't romanticize institutions that wound." The studio went quiet. Even Allison seemed thrown. Dermot's professional smile wavered as he moved to the next question. But everyone in the control room knew the calm was cracking. He shuffled his cards, voice steady. "Let's talk about your creative side, Meghan. Do you see yourself focusing on documentaries, scripted work, or writing?" Meghan smiled, polished and controlled. "I don't box myself in, I create. Whether that scares the industry or not is their problem." Allison clapped her hands once, too brightly. "That's very empowering. But some critics have said your work is heavily focused on your own journey. Do you think that's fair?" Meghan tilted her head slightly. "When men make films about their trauma, they win Oscars. When women do it, we're accused of narcissism. Maybe the problem isn't my storytelling. Allison, maybe it's society's bias." The audience sat frozen. Allison forced a laugh, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just asking what people wonder. And speaking of personal journeys, how's Harry? He's such a beloved figure here in the UK. People miss him." Meghan's tone turned icy. "Harry doesn't belong to anyone, Allison. He's not a souvenir Britain gets to miss. He's my husband. And he's thriving without constant tabloid intrusion." Dermot tried to shift gears. "And your children? Archie and Lilibet, how are they settling into life away from the spotlight?" Meghan's smile vanished entirely. "My children are not for public consumption. The world doesn't get progress reports like their reality show contestants. Allison nodded tightly. Of course. Still, families at home often relate to seeing public figures balance parenting. It inspires them. Meghan let out a short, cold laugh. Then perhaps families at home should focus on their own children instead of obsessing over mine. Gasps. The tension was unmistakable. Dermot tried again to calm the moment. Let's circle back to your projects. There's been talk about budget negotiations for the Netflix deal. Clarify? Meghan interrupted. I don't explain myself to rumor mills. Netflix knows my value. If people are shocked a woman negotiates, that's their scandal. Allison's patience thinned. But Meghan, isn't it fair to say those negotiations keep your name in the headlines? You've stepped away from the monarchy, but still command global attention. Doesn't that contradict your desire for privacy? Privacy doesn't mean silence, Meghan snapped. I didn't abdicate my humanity. I use my platform how I see fit. The air turned brittle. Allison's smile faltered. But surely you can see why the public's confused. You talk about peace, but you're always in the spotlight. Peace doesn't mean disappearing, Meghan said flatly. It means setting boundaries. Maybe people struggle with that because they're too used to women being silent. Half the audience murmured in approval. The rest looked visibly uncomfortable. Allison's tone was softer now, but the edge was there. You've had strong words for the monarchy. When you look back, do you regret any of it? Regret? Meghan scoffed. The monarchy is a relic, an ornament, polished for tourists while it crushes those within. I spoke the truth. I'll never apologize for that. For a moment, no one breathed. Dermot shifted in his chair. Allison's trademark warmth was cracking. That's certainly one way to put it, she said, forcing a smile. Dermot tried to pivot. What Meghan means is... Meghan cut in sharply. What I mean is exactly what I said. I don't need an interpreter, Dermot. Gasps again. Allison sat back, eyes narrowing slightly. Dermot looked toward the control room in mild panic. We'll take a short break, he said. When the cameras faded out, producers scrambled behind the glass. They all knew. This wasn't just an awkward interview. This was television history being written live. After the break, the tension hadn't lifted. Allison's laughter was gone. Her smile looked forced. Dermot wore his best broadcast grin, but even that was starting to crack. Welcome back, he said. We're here with Meghan Markle, having a very candid conversation. Allison's tone was firm, professional. Meghan, before the break, you spoke about truth and empowerment. What message would you like to leave with our viewers today? Meghan crossed her legs, speaking slowly. The message is simple, Allison. Stop expecting women like me to constantly explain ourselves. Stop demanding gratitude for pain disguised as privilege. I don't owe anyone my silence, least of all a television audience. A mix of applause and murmurs followed. Allison's expression didn't change. No one here is demanding your silence, Meghan. But the way you've handled yourself today, dismissing every question, belittling every challenge, that's not strength. That's arrogance. Meghan's brows arched. Arrogance? Perhaps you're just not used to women refusing to bow. The audience reacted audibly. Allison froze for a beat, then leaned forward, her voice lower now. Don't twist this into a narrative about people being threatened by your strength. I've championed women my entire career. What I won't champion is entitlement and a complete lack of accountability. Dermot raised a hand. All right, let's... But Allison wasn't done. You say you hated the monarchy, that it destroyed you. But let's be honest, Meghan. You wouldn't be sitting here without it. You wouldn't have Netflix deals, book deals, or global recognition. You used the crown when it suited you, then spat it out when it didn't. The crowd gasped, some clapping, others shocked. Meghan's face flushed. How dare you suggest I used anyone? My marriage is about love. My life is my own. Love? Allison shot back. Then why does it look like you've cashed in on your husband's name? People respected Harry before all this circus. You talk about independence, but every door you walked through was opened by him. Admit it, Meghan. You've leaned on his fame and milked it dry. The reaction was immediate, the audience erupting with gasps and whispers. Dermot tried to calm things. Okay, let's keep it professional. But Meghan was already standing. I will not sit here and be accused of exploiting my own husband on national television. This is a disgraceful ambush. Allison didn't back down. No, Meghan, What's disgraceful is the arrogance you've shown since you sat down. You've sneered at every question, mocked every perspective, and acted like you're above it all. Well, maybe people are tired of being lectured by someone who says she hates the crown but loved the attention that came with it. The studio audience was split, half stunned, half cheering. Dermot's voice was nearly drowned out. Let's take a moment. But Allison kept going, her voice shaking with emotion. Do you have any idea how offensive it is to sit here morning after morning, talking to real people who work hard for everything they have, while you sit there and talk about being misunderstood? From a mansion in Montecito, Meghan's eyes flared. If the British public expected me to bow forever for scraps of sympathy, they chose the wrong woman. I will never apologize for refusing to be silent, not for you, not for anyone. Allison exhaled sharply. Then maybe this interview should end right here. Because I won't sit here and watch you sneer at every question. This is this morning, Meghan, not your personal soapbox. Dermot's cue cards trembled slightly in his hands. We'll take another short break, he said, his voice thin. But it was too late. The damage was done. When the cameras faded for the final time, the studio buzzed with disbelief. Producers exchanged frantic whispers. Audience members craned their necks to see if Meghan would return from backstage. She didn't. Allison sat motionless, her chest rising and falling slowly. Dermot glanced at her, then toward the audience, offering a half smile that said everything and nothing at once. When they finally went back on air to close the show, Allison's tone was steady, but her eyes were still hard. That was certainly a conversation, she said. Dermot forced a laugh. It definitely was. That's all from This Morning Today. The familiar theme music played, bright and cheery, almost mocking the silence that followed. Meghan Markle had walked out of the studio. Allison Hammond had said what few dared to, and This Morning had just delivered one of the most explosive interviews in live television history. The segment was never replayed in full. Clips flooded social media within hours. This Morning meltdown trended worldwide. Some praised Allison for standing her ground. Others accused her of ambushing Meghan. But one thing was certain. Morning TV would never feel quite so safe again.